This is Aaron Barker, and you're tuning into a very special presentation of the Breakdown Live tonight. So here, you're going to be joining us on all kinds of platforms. Me, there's somebody else here talking to me, watching me. So this is, you're going to be joining on several different platforms tonight. As a matter of fact, you'll be able to join me on Facebook, my personal account. You're going to be able to join me on Twitter. And you're also going to be able to join us on Facebook.com. So our first breakdown tonight, you'll be able to join me there. And the great thing about this as well, not only is this going to be on live version of this, but you will also be able to call into the show. So you're going to be able to phone line, you'll be able to join me via phone call, which is pretty awesome. I'm going to give you some tips on how to make that phone call here in just a moment. But I'm going to give you some Twitter handles here and some social media connections here. Sorry, I'm monitoring right now. I'm looking at several different streams here. So I've got my Facebook going, the Twitter going, I got YouTube going. Hopefully all this stuff right now is broadcasting live. If you see it there, give me a shout out. There is a chat, so you can join the show via chat the entire time tonight. I'm going to try to monitor that and listen to it. Also, you'll be able to, as I mentioned a moment ago, call into the show here in just a little bit when I open up the phone lines. Now, when you call in, when I open up the phone lines, there's going to be a mad rush of people that want to call in right now. So when you call in, you're gonna leave your name. I'm going to answer the phone, but then you're going to hear me talking, but then I'm going to put you in queue to be answered. So if you hear me talking, don't start talking to me. Not because I don't want to talk to you, but because you're not on the air yet. So you will be able to join me there, and you'll be able to join me and talk about all kinds of things here. Right now, we're just checking all of the different social media setups to make sure you can see me everywhere. So if you can, just sound off. Let me know that you're able to watch live right now by sending me a chat, which is going to be live through the whole show. Really, I've been planning the show ever since we had the bombing or the takeout of Soleimani last week. I've really been planning on an opportunity to come here and do the show. And the benefit of being able to host it like I have is I've had the chance to listen to all kinds of different opinions. I've had a chance to listen to many different opinions as well. So I'm pretty stoked about tonight because it's a special thing. I don't think, let me see something here real quick, because I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to see the show. Okay. I'm thinking. Okay. All right. Well, a couple of different things I want to get into tonight. And before we get into the big stuff that I wanted to talk about, a few pieces of information that I thought were rather intriguing that I came across this evening. And to me, it's relatively funny. The first thing I came across, as a matter of fact, is Paul Krugman is a writer for the New York Times. And on Twitter earlier today, he posted probably one of the creepiest, weirdest tweets that I've seen in a really long time. on Twitter. As a matter of fact, we're 7 days into the new year of 2020. He may have already won the creepiest tweet of the year award. I don't know what tweets are going to be coming afterwards, but he tweeted out earlier today. Oh, he deleted the tweet. Oh, no way. He deleted the tweet. Pretty much what he said on the tweet, though, was that he was online with his tech department, and they had told him that somebody had stolen his IP address and that they were downloading child pornography via his IP address. And I thought it rather funny because, first off, dude, and Twitter exploded about it from what I saw. News articles were being written. But the first thing that I thought of, and I'm sure many other people thought of as well, was, dude, nobody would ever have known that there was kiddie porn on your computer. Nobody really ever cared that there was Twitter, that there was potentially child pornography on your computer. And you just had to be so narcissistic that you told 4.5 million people that were following you that there was child porn on your computer. That not only is that creepy, that's just absolutely stupid. I mean, it's like the guy who walked into the bar with a big pile of horse crap in his hands and goes, "Hey guys, look what I almost stepped in." Nobody would have known. But I wonder, because I did see this interesting news story from Apple, and I'm wondering if this is the reason that he did this. Apple did reveal that it scans photos uploaded to the cloud from iPhones to check for child sexual abuse. Yes, that they scan through your photos that have been uploaded to the cloud to check for child sexual abuse. It says here that Apple's privacy director confirmed the company uses software to scan images. They did not go into detail over how the software works or what tools they use. Privacy director Jane Horvath defended Apple's use of the end-to-end encryption. Now, that's first off, it's a violation of your privacy. Now, if people are like, well, you're using their platform, therefore, if you use their platform, you're within their guidelines. And I agree. And that's one of the big reasons why we have to read the terms and the privacy settings that we adhere to when we use these tech companies. And that's the biggest danger, isn't it? I mean, honestly, that's the biggest danger. I mean, we talk about the government stepping in, overstepping their territory, and jumping over into our privacy issues. But the question remains is this: what are we giving away? What are we giving away to the tech companies when we sign over our those privacy rights, and we sign over our information, our faces, our pictures, our people? I mean, you think about that. You scroll through Facebook, and there are millions, probably billions of pictures. I mean, if there are billions of interactions on Facebook per day, then I am sure that there are billions of pictures that are in that are in the cloud. Because people love in pictures. They love people seeing what they do. They love people seeing their kids. They love people seeing what they're having for dinner. They love seeing they love putting up there exactly where they went for vacation and who came over to their house and what drinks they had and what date nights they had. And they love checking in all these different places. But just think about the amount of, but also consider this. If you have kids, your kids don't have any privacy. Your kids have been successfully entered into the machine, and there's no way for them to extricate themselves, because wherever those pictures go online, they do not disappear. I guarantee you that. They do not disappear at all. I am going to make a quick note here. All right. But yeah, but just think about that. Your kids who really don't have any ability to protect themselves from online predators. They don't have the way to protect themselves, protect their privacy rights, or protect their own privacy in those situations. Now you've put all of their information, all of their pictures, their likes, their dislikes, their favorite toys, their favorite bedtime routines, all of those things. You put that all out there online. And what are your kids going to do now? Absolutely nothing, because we've removed their ability to create their own profile. They've already got a profile created. They're already targeted. They're already an advertiser's dream. Not only are they an advertiser's dream for just targeting you, because, I mean, your child's turning 5 years old. We've got to have the bestest party around for him with all their awesome decorations. Oh, my child's turning 5.5 today. I've got to go out and get all the fantastic decorations for that and buy a cake. They love that stuff. And they love the fact that you are going to be there and that you're going to see them and they can target you for those particular things. You and your child as well. Your child, when they're playing their games on their phone, your child's going to be targeted based on where they travel online and what they do. They're making a digital footprint, and right now, their digital footprint is totally set for them already. It's like a Bigfoot cast. It's been set down. They've poured the cast in there. Oh, look, there's Bigfoot. It's the child over there. We're going to watch that kid. We're going to keep an eye on them throughout that. I mean, but it's unfortunate in that event. I'm very sad to hear that and very upset that a child can't have their own privacy and can't have their own rights. But anyway, but interestingly enough, going along with that same story of Apple. Now look at Apple. It says here that Apple are scanning photos uploaded to its cloud service for signs of child abuse images, according to a senior privacy officer for the tech giant. Speaking at a panel at CES in Las Vegas, Jane Horvath said Apple uses specialist software to automatically screen iPhone images backed up to iCloud. She didn't go into any detail about the type of software they use, but said they were being used to help screen for child sex abuse material. It was confirmed as part of a roundtable debate into privacy issues and whether legislation is required to protect users' personal information. Ms. Horvath was defending the fact that Apple uses encryption on all of its devices to protect users' private information, which includes health and financial data. She said other solutions, such as software to detect signs of child abuse, were needed rather than opening back doors into encryption as suggested by some law enforcement organizations and governments. Our phones are small, and they're going to get lost and stolen, said Mrs. Horvath. If we are going to be able to rely on having health and finance data on devices, then we need to make sure that if you misplace the device, you are not losing sensitive information. Now notice how they always have some type of righteous or seemingly righteous purpose of doing this. This is to protect from child abuse. This is to ensure that children aren't being used as sexual objects. This is to make sure that children are being protected. But what other reasons can they get in there? What other things can they check while they're in there? Well, they can check where you've been, what you're doing. They can give that information and criminal information over to courts if it is requested. As a matter of fact, breaking news this evening. There was a judge that was ordered that orders Google to turn over a year of Jussie Smollett's data. Now think about that. Now we have Apple that's scanning your information. We know Google is scanning your information as well. We have Apple that's scanning your information. They're looking for you. They're assuming that they're patrolling you. They're watching you because you're a child predator. And that's what they use to get an edge in. But what other activities are you doing? Now, some will say, well, what do you have to hide? Well, I have everything to hide because it's my privacy. I should not have to show you. I should not have to be subjected to presenting to you anything that I do. If I take a picture on my phone, the phone is mine. I own that phone. You should not be able to step in and do anything with that phone whatsoever. You should be able to pry in. But the secret here is they've got you on the cloud. You're in the cloud now. So since you're in the cloud and you're using that, remember when the jailbreaking of the phone was very popular? That was a huge court issue. That was a big problem because if you jailbroke the phone, they were saying, well, that's improperly using our material. Say, well, listen, folks, we bought that phone. It's ours. We own that. You can't tell us how to use that phone, nor can you determine what we use the phone for or when we use the phone or how long we use the phone. But now you're using the phone and the cloud and you're backing up all your information and you're putting it on their servers, and now they have every right to know what's in their servers. For instance, let's say they overstep that and say, you know what, we noticed that you were on social media a little too much. We noticed that you were looking into some questionable websites like Infowars.com or the CrusadeChannel.com. We've noticed that you have some odd behaviors. We've noticed that you have some strange reading habits. We've noticed you have maybe some insomnia. Maybe you're depressed because you're up in the middle of the night. You've been looking into vaccinations and their effect on humanity. You've been looking into the war. You've been looking into anti-war websites. You've been looking into pro-war websites. Whatever it is. I mean, you just you just insert your pet, whatever it is you like to observe. But what if they don't like it? What if they don't like it and they decide that you need to stop doing that? And since you need to stop doing that, they'll step in and say, now it's time for you to go to bed, and they'll shut down your phone. But as far as sensitive information is concerned, we have given up so much. Now, we've done so much when it comes to Google. We've done so much when it comes to our internet information and what we put out there, that situations like Jussie Smollett, we're concerned about situations like Jussie Smollett. How so, you say? Well, Jussie Smollett here. What kind of name is Jussie? I don't know if you remember him or not, but Jussie Smollett is Mr. Intersectionality. He is an actor in the movie or in the show Empire, which I never watched. I never really got into that show at all, to be honest with you. I didn't even know he was on the show until he became popular out of this. So his goal for doing that, or for getting popular, was here. However, Jussie was an actor on Empire. I think he made somewhere around $100,000 per episode. And since he is an African-American homosexual male, he wanted more money. He wanted more attention, more notoriety. So what this young man did is he faked an attack, paid some guys to attack him, claiming that it was a homosexually, racially motivated hate crime. And the media just ate this up. They blew up. They loved this. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't you love this? You have here Mr. Intersectionality. This is a Hollywood star. This guy he's making like $1 million or $100,000 an episode. Let's say there's like 16 episodes in a season. So he's making like $1,600,000 or something. I mean, like making almost $2 million a year. Mr. Intersectionality, the media eats it alive. A homosexual black male out at night, unsafe in the neighborhood, unable to trust his fellow patrons as he walks down the sidewalk to go to the store, simply going to the ATM to withdraw $50,000. Jussie Smollett was attacked by two men because he was a gay African-American actor. Right. Unfortunately, that's not the case, as it came out and it unraveled very quickly that Jussie Smollett, as a matter of fact, was not attacked via a hate crime. Jussie Smollett was attacked because he planned it for attention. Well, anyway, a Cook County judge has ordered the tech giant Google to turn over a full year of Jussie Smollett's data, including emails, photos, location data, and private messages to aid Special Prosecutor Dan Webb's investigation. Against all odds, public perception, and logic, Jussie Smollett has maintained his innocence despite significant circumstantial evidence pointing to the fact that he orchestrated the hate crime against him. This data released by Google could potentially end the charade once and for all. All right. So your online information, where you're going, what you're doing, your contact information can be used against you. Now, some people are like, well, your texts can, your phone records can. Absolutely. But look at the precedence that's being set here. Jussie Smollett's information is being turned over, and I'm not going to argue that it's unrighteous for them to be turning that over. And if you're just joining us, by the way, this is the breakdown. I'm going to be taking your calls here in just a little bit. You'll be able to join in the program and give your opinion on what we're talking about. As a matter of fact, we're talking about Jussie Smollett right now. We're talking about internet privacy and what information we've given up. But let's say that there are nefarious reasons, nefarious purposes that people are looking for your information. Let's say that you've been declared an enemy combatant by a president, and they want to see what websites you've been going to use and build a case against you. Let's say you've been called a radical Christian, and they want to use that information against you as well. All of your information is out there. Where you go, what you like, what you read, all of that information. And it's not yours. It's not secured. It's being put on somebody else's server, and that's the danger. Back in the day when the Fourth Amendment was written, they talked about being protected and your papers and property being protected from unlawful searches and seizures. However, now, as we don't have the papers with us, we don't have the actual documents with us, we don't have in our possession these things, then, and they're uploaded to a cloud out of our possession, the fight becomes now a digital battle. How are we going to protect our information? How are we going to keep ourselves safe from that info? But anyway, those are just a couple of news stories to get us warmed up here. And I'm going to talk here now about the recent destructive things that have been happening in the country. And this is where I'm sure many people are going to want to weigh in on. and the reason is because this has been a very controversial topic. As you probably well know, if you're watching this program, or if you follow me on Facebook, or if you follow me on Twitter or any other social media, which, by the way, you're able right now to join me on Twitter. We're doing it via Periscope. We're also doing it on YouTube, or trying to do it on YouTube, and we're also doing this on Facebook, my private page, and the breakdown page. So facebook.com/BreakDRadio. If one of those feeds is not working out well for you, and you would like to get a better feed, by all means, you have multiple ways to do that. Let me get over here real quick and pull up some information. It'd be nice if I had the phone set up so you can actually call in. That's one of the important things here. Okay. All right. Okay, so when you in just a moment when I open up the phone lines, if you're just joining us, when you call in, you're going to be given your name, and then you're going to be put on hold. Now, when I go to you, you're going to hear me talking, but you're not going to be able to talk yet until I go to you. If you're on hold, you're the caller. You're the one that's on that's waiting, that's in the bullpen there. So when I go to you, it'll be your turn to talk. A couple of things I want to get into and throw out to you there first. So, last week, it was a shocking thing to hear that a high-ranking military general was killed in the Middle East. People immediately were asking who did this, what was the purpose of doing this, etc. And it quickly came out that this was a strike ordered by the president against this military general. And it began to be justified by the administration. It was also decried by the liberals. And it was also attacked by folks around the world and supported by folks around the world. So you had the left and the right, the typical left-right paradigm, going at each other in this fight of dominance, trying to prove that their point was right. The reason that Trump did it was for these reasons, and the reasons that he shouldn't have done it were here on the liberal side as to why he didn't. But the question that I first wondered when this happened was, did Donald Trump have the proper authorization to do this? Did he have the proper authorization to strike? Now, the answer is a complicated one, because the answer is no. He did not have the ability as the president to make this strike without congressional approval. But the answer is technically yes, because of what the Congress has done in the past about the War Powers Act. Now, just a little bit of history here. The War Powers Act was something that was passed in 1973, initially made to rein in the president's ability, whoever the president was at the time, to rein in their ability to wage war without congressional approval. But in actuality, it was the Congress ceding their responsibility as the Congress of the United States of America to prevent needless wars and to prevent one person making those decisions for an entire nation. So there are two things that I saw here very, very quickly. The first thing that I saw here that was honestly really disturbing to me was first, if you can make a constitutional argument as to why somebody is doing something or why somebody should not be able to do something, I'm going to listen. Because as patriots, we should be constantly paying attention to what people are doing, especially those in our Congress, those in our government. We should be paying specific and particular attention to how they address and work within the confines to which they are held in the Constitution of the United States of America. We have this document not to bind the people. We have this document to bind the states, to ensure that the states have their rights. We have this document to ensure that the government does not overstep the bounds of each individual state. So we have to pay attention to that. One thing I noticed very quickly, though, is that on the left, there wasn't really much of a constitutional argument being made. Yes, they brought up the fact that the president should have gotten approval from the Congress. They brought up the fact that he attacked, and some people say it was an act of war. Some people say it was not an act of war. But they did bring up that he did launch this attack and killed someone in another country where this person didn't even live. That was a high-ranking military official in Iran. He was killed in Iraq because he had been called there for a meeting. He left the airport. There was a small 2-minute window of time where he needed to be taken out to prevent any collateral damage. And when that was done, he had been visiting from Iran and he was in Iraq. So they had that small window to do that. So the left was making this case. Oh, well, he has to go to the Congress. However, my question remains this. If that was the issue, if that's where your concern was, why did the left begin defending the Soleimani and treating him like he was some kind of martyr, like he was some kind of saint, like he was beloved and considered an amazing person and just this wonderful citizen over in Iran? One thing I think that we did find out here is that the left conclusively proved that it is consistently and constantly on the wrong side of the debates when it comes to our safety and national security. Now, that was mainly because they were attacking President Trump for doing this, and they were using this guise that he was some kind of great person, and how in the world could Donald Trump attack such a wonderful person? Now, of course, they didn't say that, but in so many words, they were out there acting as if this man deserved to be lauded. As a matter of fact, the UK in England, they had voted this man the person of the year. Now, that's the extent to which they were taking this. It was absolutely ludicrous to see this playing out. And it showed the nation, it showed the entire world that the left only worries about when they disagree with Trump, which is on everything. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump does. They are always going to disagree. They are always going to hate on Donald Trump. They are always going to say that Donald Trump did wrong, regardless of whether or not what he did was a just action, regardless of whether or not what he did was a good action. Their only goal is to destroy him and thereby destroying you as the supporter, as the American who stands behind Donald Trump. I found one tweet from Michael Moore to be pretty disturbing on many levels here. Here is his. Where is the tweet? I thought I had it up here. But if you want to see the epitome of Michael Moore, or if you want to see the epitome of an emasculated society, if you want to see, let me see here. I'm going to pull this up here because he apologizes to the country of Iran for what Donald Trump has done. It shows, honestly, the emasculation of our society. So he apologized in Farsi, in the language of the country. His tweet said, "Sir, I deeply regret the violence on our behalf by a man that most Americans have never voted for. Avoid power. A sincere man, Michael Moore, an American citizen. Where, first off, who gave him the right to speak on our behalf? I mean, you can tell me, you can comment on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Did you give Michael Moore the right to speak for you? Did you give Michael Moore the right to stand up for you? Because I didn't. I didn't say Michael Moore could speak for me. I didn't say he could say anything on my behalf. I don't ever remember voting for Michael Moore as a representative, as a congressman, as a senator, as any kind of government official, as a state representative, local representative. I don't even remember voting for him as a dog catcher. Yet he's standing and purporting to say, for us, right? For us, that he apologizes. There was another tweet, and I want to find it here. Because it further shows just how ridiculous. Now, it wasn't just Michael Moore. It was Ilhan Omar. It was Rashida Tlaib. It was the left that could not stand that something had happened with which they completely, totally, and utterly disagreed with. But in his tweet, he was apologizing. He was begging for mercy. He was asking them not to hurt us. He was asking them not to be angry. He was asking them not to be hurt. He was asking them to please. And I thought as I watched this, what kind of nation are we? Where a man gets on Twitter and begs another country to not hurt us because he disagreed with something that his president did. I mean, it was embarrassing as men. But listen, I mean, he was apologizing. He said it wasn't him. He said that he didn't do it and that he had no part in it. It wasn't me. It was the one-armed man. I felt bad. But the left has consistently there has shown that their only desire is to say that they hate Donald Trump and to show that. Now, where does that leave us when it comes to the actual actions of Donald Trump? And this is the part where a lot of people are probably going to get annoyed at me. But again, if you've been following on Facebook or Twitter, you're going to be able to see that I'm trying to be as consistent as I possibly can in this entire situation to make sure that when we look at Donald Trump, we're not just looking at him as Trump and setting him up on this pedestal as if he can do no wrong. We're trying to consider what we would say to any president, any person, any politician, any official in a capacity such as this with a responsibility so grave that they can decide to take the life of another human being, or they can decide to draw an entire nation into war. We have to consider what is the standard by which we hold everyone to so that we all have the exact same answer to the exact same questions when it comes forward. Now, a lot of folks will be out there, well, Soleimani was a bad man. We accept. Now, it doesn't matter if Soleimani was a bad man. It doesn't matter if he was a clown with a bunch of balloons. It doesn't matter if he was Goliath, right? I'm going to go solely based on the fact of the actions taken by Donald Trump. And by my estimation, from what I've been able to see, from my viewing of the Constitution, my viewing of the actions of a president in a situation dire and grave like this, I believe that Donald Trump acted against the Constitution and therefore acting against what the American people, the best interest of the American people. Now, you will say, well, this terrorist needed to be killed. There was intelligence that said that he needed to go down. However, the intelligence that they say they were using, was this from the same intelligence community that for the past 3 years we've been told not to trust because they're out to get Donald Trump? Up until this point, are we to hate the intelligence community and disrespect or call them out of line to say that they are working in accord to get rid of Donald Trump? Yet in this particular situation, we're supposed to believe that this intelligence was accurate. The issue here is whether or not Donald Trump acted outside the Constitution. We have to hold him to a specific standard. We cannot just let him do things however he wants to because he happens to be a great president thus far. And there are fantastic things that he's doing. He's lowered taxes. He's decreased the unemployment rates. He's helped the economy establish itself. But then there are things on the other side that he's doing that are improper, and we need to have the courage, we need to have the guts to call him out when he does something wrong and he does something improper. When you sign the NDAA, when you reauthorize that, and you sign $738 billion to the Pentagon and create another branch of the military called the Space Force to protect us from intergalactic communists, I'm going to say that's wrong. When you run on a platform to reduce the debt and it gets increased, I'm going to call you out on that and say that it's wrong. And when you do great things, I'm going to say, go Donald Trump. I voted for Donald Trump, and I back Donald Trump. But I also, my allegiance, as should all Americans' allegiance, lies with the Constitution of the United States of America. With the Constitution of the United States of America, it is necessary that we hold all to that standard. Now, what I'm going to do here, I've got an article I want to go through here. However, I'm going to open up the phone lines right now for you to call into the show. If you would like to call in, go ahead and give me a call at 859-429-2764. That's 859-429-2764. That will allow you to contact me. And when you call, again, you're going to call, you're going to give your name, and then I'm going to come to you. You may hear me continue to talk, but when I come to you, you're going to be the person on the line because there's only one line here. So tell me, how do you think, or what do you think the Trump should do right now? What do you, or I'm sorry, not what he should do. I'm going to put the number here in the comments. All right. If there is anybody watching right now, I apologize for this. Okay. So, the number again, 859-429-2764. That's 859-429-2764. You can call in right now. Phone lines are open. And I'm taking your calls. Agree or disagree. I want to know where you stand on this issue with Soleimani. Do you think that Donald Trump acted in accord with the Constitution? Do you think he is right in doing this? Was it constitutional? Was it right? Was it wrong? And I stand on the fact that I believe it was unconstitutional for Donald Trump to authorize this without congressional approval. And I will build that case based around as much constitutional fortitude as I can muster, right? 859-429-2764. Also comment on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. Now, I have this article here. So let me back up here just a moment. So one of the things that Donald Trump has that we've heard about here is the authorization from the War Powers Act. The issue with the War Powers Act is that it was passed to rein in a president's use of military power and military aggression in countries around the world. We were coming off the Vietnam War. The Congress was trying to say, no, President, you can't do this. You don't have these powers. You can't just take us into war without asking us for permission. They were absolutely right to do that because Congress is the only one that has the power to wage war. And the president has to get the approval of Congress. And it's the Congress's responsibility to say yes or no, to look at all the evidence and determine whether or not we want to drag a nation into war. That's why they do it. When the Constitution was formed and they brought all these intelligent men together to look at how this country was going to be run, they looked at the men that would be running that, not just the men in the room that could potentially be president, but they looked forward to the men that would be president afterwards. And to give all the power to declare war to one person was unimaginable. There are some people that you don't want to have that power. Actually, you don't want anyone to have that power. To say that they have the ability to wage war, to drag an entire nation and commit them to militarization in another country. So the Congress passed the War Powers Act saying, hey, by the way, look over, okay, so you're going to do it anyway, okay? We see you're going to go ahead and you're going to go to war, okay, Mr. President? So since you're going to go ahead and go to war, here's some guidelines. You can't be in war for longer than 60 days, okay? You can't drop a bomb or bomb another country without at least, kind of saying, hey, Congress, going to let you know. The problem with the War Powers Act was that it ceded the Congress's responsibility. It ceded and gave to the president the permissions that were not his, but that he was usurping and taking on his own, that office was taking on its own. I have an article here that was actually brought to my attention by Mike Church from the Crusade Channel. Mike Church hosts the Mike Church Show over on the crusadechannel.com, Monday through Friday. Excellent show. He's a patriot, loves our country, and has a great radio program over there. I would strongly encourage you to drop by and listen to it. A partner, I work with them as well, so just full disclosure, I fill in over on the Crusade Channel for the Barrett Brief, and so we have a relationship. I have a relationship with them. You can check my Twitter feed and see that as well. So, but this is not to promote that show, but this is just to simply show that an article that Judge Andrew Napolitano wrote that I have here in my hands. This is an article written by Judge Andrew Napolitano in 2013. Now, the reason that this article is so important is because this article, let me mute that. This article was written while Obama was president by Judge Andrew Napolitano, whom some hate now because Judge Napolitano is what they consider an anti-Trumper. Now, in this article, the title says the 1973 War Powers Resolution is unconstitutional too. It says here, the President Obama's request for express congressional authorization for a limited aerial invasion of Syria raises profound legal and constitutional questions. For starters, there is simply no legal basis in international law to support an American invasion of Syria. Yet, notwithstanding that, federal law permits the President to commit U.S. military forces anywhere he wants for up to 90 days without express authorization from Congress. So why did Obama ask for the authorization he surely knows he already has? Since March 2011, Syria has been in the throes of a civil war. Those seeking to oust the government of President Bashar al-Assad are a mixture of his domestic political opponents, disgruntled former Syrian military officers, and dangerous radical foreign Islamist fighters affiliated with al-Qaeda. International organizations monitoring the war have put the dead from both sides at more than 100,000 persons. Until last week, the U.S. had steadfastly stayed out of this war, as its outcome is unlikely to affect American national security. Though Assad is a former friend who once famously dined with then Senator John Kerry, he is now a monster, willing to go to extremes to stay in power. On the other hand, our allies in the region surely would prefer that the Syrian government not be run or under the influence of al-Qaeda, and federal law prohibits Americans and the U.S. government from aiding al-Qaeda, hence our neutrality. Until Obama made a thoughtless and bravado-driven comment during his re-election campaign in August 2012, and now fears that his bluff has been called. Now, if you're just joining us, this is the breakdown. You can call in if you would like to let me know if you think that Donald Trump acted constitutionally or unconstitutionally, and what you think your advice would be to him if he were to ask you, Mr. or Mrs. Joe America. What would you tell Donald Trump? Would you tell him, hey, kudos, good job, go do some more carpet bombing? Or would you tell him, hey, President, we want you to do things constitutionally? What would you tell the president here? I'm reading an article. By the way, 859-429-2764 is the number that you can call if you would like to be a part of the show. Now, in the article here from Judge Andrew Napolitano as we continue. President Obama, in his comments, sounding like an international policeman, a position he condemned when President George W. Bush sounded that way, declared that if the Syrian government used chemical weapons against its adversaries, the very use of which is prohibited by all civil norms, America would revisit its neutrality. In reliance upon what he now claims is sound intelligence showing government use of the chemical weapons on innocent Syrian civilians, Obama last week stated an intention to engage in a limited military invasion of Syria so as to weaken its resolve and ability to fight the rebels further. Never mind. Now, this is just standard interventionist policies. The United States has had presidents on both sides, as we can see here. Donald Trump does it. We have Obama did it. George W. Bush was a master at it. Clinton did it. H.W. Bush did it. We had Ronald Reagan did it. Presidents meddle in other countries, and they meddle in their issues, and they intervene with all of that. It's an interventionist foreign policy, and we see that here. And that's what he's talking about. He's saying, as Judge Andrew Napolitano continues talking about Obama's comments regarding Syria's chemical attacks, he says, never mind that the photos shown by Obama's folks of aid workers ministering to the supposed victims of government gassing show the workers without gas masks or gloves, and never mind that the Assad regime has permitted UN weapons inspectors unfettered access to its material, and never mind that the president wants to invade Syria before the weapons inspectors issued their report, false flag. The president wants us to believe that the Assad regime intentionally gassed 1,000 Syrian innocents who were of no military value to the rebels or a threat to the regime, and among whom were, according to the former White House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, hundreds of children. Even if all this took place, as Obama claims, can he lawfully bomb Syria to punish its government for violating international norms or deter it from doing so again? Now, that's a great question. I would like to pause just a moment to ask you to answer that question. If a chemical attack actually happened in Syria by the government, which it did not. Both attacks, both here in 2013 and then also the one that happened, I believe, in 2017, were both false flag events. They were both meant to distract. They were both meant to encourage military intervention, because there's always got to be some issue. There's always got to be some problem. There's always got to be something to be policed. There's always got to be a damsel in distress that the United States flies around like Superman trying to save. Not just the United States, other countries, but mainly the United States. So even if all of that took place, even if those chemical attacks were true, if they legitimately happened, do we have the right as a nation to punish another nation and deter them from doing it again? The answer is no. International law recognizes only 3 lawful routes to the use of military force. It recognizes that the right of every country to launch military force in order to prevent its own borders from being invaded or subdue those who commenced an invasion. It also recognizes the ability of any UN member state to come to the aid of another UN member state when one of them has been invaded. And treaties to which the U.S. and Syria are parties permit limited purpose invasions when approved by the UN. None of these lawful scenarios applied to Syria. Can Obama just launch an invasion of Syria, even if it would be unlawful and even if Congress says no? Because of the vicissitudes of history, the personalities of presidents, and the myopic compromises of past Congresses, the area of presidential war-making has different legal and constitutional ramifications. Congress, under the Constitution, only Congress can authorize the offensive use of military force. James Madison's notes from the Constitutional Convention in 1787 make it obvious that the framers were nearly unanimous in their resolve to keep the war-making power away from the president and repose it exclusively with Congress. They did this clearly and unambiguously in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. Notwithstanding the precise language of the Constitution and the history of the nation's birth, the War Powers Resolution, or the WPR, a federal statute enacted in 1973 over President Nixon's veto, does permit the president on his own to use the military for offensive wars for a maximum of 90 days. Now consider that. Think about that. The War Powers Act The War Powers Act gave the power to the president for him to engage in war. So the Congress has responsibility to do something, and instead of the Congress doing it, they actually gave the president the power to do so, rather than taking that power away from him and keeping it in the same way that they needed to keep it for themselves, as the Constitution told them to. Yet the Supreme Court has ruled consistently that the WPR is profoundly unconstitutional because it cedes Congress's constitutional war-making power to the president. The WPR was an ill-conceived political compromise effectuated by a Watergate-weakened president, congressional hawks who approved of Nixon's unilateral invasion of Cambodia, and sober congressional heads more faithful to the separation of powers. Yet the Supreme Court has ruled consistently that the transfer of constitutional powers among the branches of the federal government is unconstitutional, even if popular and consensual, unless brought about by an amendment to the Constitution. Now note that important statement there. We have a very, very specific set of rules when it comes to guiding our country, and we have a very set of specific rules when it comes to changing our Constitution. Let's say that the War Powers Act is something that the country feels is necessary and that the president should have that right to start a war. Let's just say, let's grant that. It still cannot be done by Congress. That fundamentally changes the fabric of our nation. It fundamentally changes the document upon which our nation is founded, the Constitution of the United States of America. If there is to be a change to the fabric of the Constitution, if there is to be a change for the very thing that prevents a president from going around the world and warring with everyone, from pulling us into all kinds of foreign entanglements, something like this has to be an amendment. It has to be presented by Congress and follow the appropriate bounds. It has to be approved by the states. You can't just go out willy-nilly and the Congress saying, oh, we're not going to do that. We're just going to let the president do whatever he wants to. With a Congress like that, we're paying them millions of dollars to go to Washington and simply tell the president, oh, it doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want to do anyway. I'm going to go stay in my nice condo in D.C. What are we saying as a nation if we allow our Congress to pass off and abrogate their responsibilities to one man? It has to be something that's done constitutionally. So we have an unconstitutional War Powers Act that was passed because presidents were acting unconstitutionally. And rather than reining them in based on the Constitution, the Congress just rolled over and said, just do whatever you want to, all willy-nilly. It has to be, as Judge Andrew Napolitano points out, popular and consensual unless brought about by an amendment to the Constitution. Thus, Congress can no more let the president start wars than the president can let Congress appoint federal judges, lest the Constitution have no meaning or force of law. So why does Obama want Congress's approval to do that which international law prohibits and federal law permits? Obama knows that war is the health of the state. It unites political adversaries around common patriotic-sounding goals and often generates support for those in harm's way and resources for the federal government officials who sent them there. But will another war enhance our freedoms or our safety? Will it add to our debt? Will it trash the law? Can we bomb and kill for bragging rights? The answers are obvious, and they don't justify war. Now you're saying, well, that was written back in 2013, and that was President Obama, and what Obama was doing was absolutely hideous. That was terrible. It was horrible. Why in the world do we allow Obama to go do those terrible things? Obama was the Antichrist. Obama had no right to do those things. But in actuality, folks, we are doing the exact same thing with President Donald Trump. When we don't rein in his authority, when we don't rein in the powers that he's been unconstitutionally given, what we do is we say, well, it doesn't matter as long as it's our guy in the White House. As long as it's our guy, the one that's pushing the button and dropping the bombs on the people we don't like, as long as it's him, then that's fine. So if that's the case, if we're so willing to say, well, it's President Trump, so we can bomb whomever we want to, and we don't have to hold him accountable, you're no better than the leftists who right now are saying the exact same things. Because they're saying that Donald Trump was doing something unconstitutional, or they're blaming it, saying it was unconstitutional, and that this man Soleimani was a wonderful saint. You'd think that he had a halo on his head when the bomb was dropped on his car. But you're no better if you refuse to call your president, if you refuse to call him on the carpet and say what you're doing is irresponsible and it can't be done. You are no better than the liberals right now who refuse to say that Donald Trump can do something good. You are no better than the folks who call out the person on the other side. 859-429-2764 is the number you can call if you would like to join me on the show tonight to explain why you think that Donald Trump was either constitutional or unconstitutional when he acted this way. Was Donald Trump constitutionally prohibited from doing this, or is Donald Trump totally able to do this? Now, you can call. The number would be 859-429-2764. You can comment on Facebook, both personal page and facebook.com/BreakDRadio. You can also comment on Twitter. You can tweet, retweet, and you can let me know what you think there. And I'm going to keep up with the comments as they're coming in. And I'm going to... All right. I'm going to put this right here so that others can see this. And if you are with me right now, thank you very much for your patience. You know, it is frustrating because I see the issue that we face in this country right now. We have a lot of folks who are part of the Trump cult. Now, that's a very specific thing. I am a Trump supporter. I'm a 50.5% Trump supporter. I'm supporting what he's doing currently with the taxes. I'm supporting what he's doing right now when it comes to pro-life legislation for the most part. I'm supporting what's happening right now with the economy. But I'm supporting what's happening right now with the historically low unemployment rates. And I'm especially happy that the African American community has historically low rates as well, because that's something that hasn't happened like this before. And it's a fantastic turn of events to see things like this occur in a country who up until this point has had many issues with these problems. And I see those things that Donald Trump does, and I think, well, these are great things. But then when we see those things that Donald Trump does that aren't good, we have to be able to call him out on it. Or we're no better than the people who refuse to call out anyone else. We're no better than the ones who refuse to call out the left or the right. We're no better than the ones who refuse. Think about what was happening with with George W. Bush, and the courage of folks to call him out and say, you can't pull us into unjust wars. You can't say that, well, since we're over there and Saddam Hussein is over here as well, he's got weapons of mass destruction, so we just need to go into that country as well and carpet bomb him and destroy them also. If that is the case, we are being woefully inconsistent. We are being terribly inconsistent in that we are not standing up for the appropriate rights and responsibilities that we have, the necessary rights and responsibilities we have to fight against not Donald Trump, but to fight against unconstitutional things. 859-429-2764 is the number you can call to sound off on whether or not you agree that Donald Trump acted constitutionally or unconstitutionally. You know, a couple other things that I found out that was interesting here. Not only were we told that the intelligence community was corrupt over the past several years, but now we're being told that we should trust them. As a matter of fact, Rand Paul and Senator Mike Lee were infuriated after a meeting this evening with legislators. It says GOP Senators Mike Lee and Rand Paul ripped the administration over a closed-door briefing on Iran on Wednesday, announcing they will now support a resolution reining in President Trump's military powers. Lee, speaking to reporters after a roughly hour-long closed-door meeting with administration officials, characterized it as, quote, the worst briefing I've seen, at least on a military issue. End quote. Defense Secretary Mark Esper, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, CIA Director Gina Haspel, and Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Senator Mark Milley were dispatched to brief both the House and Senate on Wednesday amid days of concerns from lawmakers that Trump was on a path to war with Iran, which on Tuesday night launched missiles at Iraqi bases housing U.S. troops. Lee said that the officials warned that Congress would embolden Iran if lawmakers debated Trump's war powers. Isn't that the ultimate case misinformation that you're seeing from Big Brother? Don't disagree with the president. Don't debate the constitutionality of his actions. You'll just embolden Iran. Listen, Iran is the little short turd that follows the bully around at school. They're going to run their mouth regardless. But to try to silence someone by telling them, oh, Iran is going to be emboldened if you dare speak of freedom and the Constitution, if you dare call out something that's been done improperly, well, then you're going to embolden them. That's no better than George W. Bush saying, if you're not for us, you're with the terrorists. So again, it's this false dichotomy. You're either 100% behind an imperialist understanding and an interventionist military foreign policy, or you're with the terrorists. There is no in between. That's an illogical presentation of the facts. There's more choices than just that. Nor is there any way that you can prove conclusively that it's going to embolden and empower them on the other side of the world. We have the ability to stand up for our Constitution. We have the ability to stand up for our rights here in this nation. That's what makes us the unique experience. That's what makes us the great nation that we are, is our ability to speak out against our leaders and say what you're doing is wrong. It's improper. Now, for this to happen behind closed doors, for this type of manipulation to occur, for this type of bullying to occur, to be told that you're going to embolden them if you dare speak about our constitutional freedoms. That's balderdash. That's bullcrap. And that honestly, that makes me extremely angry to know that the information is trying to be controlled that way still. That just tells us we're still surrounded by the same swamp. Listen to those people that are here in this. Defense Secretary Mark Esper. Let's ask Defense Secretary Mark Esper where the billions of dollars that have gone to the Department of Defense have gone. All the money that you've snaked around and lied to Congress about so you can get more. Not just Mark Esper, but the Department of Defense in general. The billions of dollars that went missing on 9/11. We have Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is a pompous, arrogant punk, who says that they lie and they steal and they cheat. They had classes on it at the CIA. That guy is a swamp rat. CIA Director Gina Haspel. I mean, listen to the names. These are not names of people that are freedom fighters. These are not names of patriots. These are names of swamp rats in the swamp that need to be drained. That is who is giving President Trump information. And it's being controlled in such a way as to present that there's no other choice than for us to go to war or for us to bomb other nations. 859-429-2764 is the number for you to call. I would love to hear you voice off on this as well and sound off on this. It would be fantastic for you to join. You can chat with me as well. But continuing with this article, there's another word for this where the officials are telling Congress that they would embolden Iran if the lawmakers debated Trump's war powers. It's manipulation. There's another word, a more powerful word for that, and I'm going to have to think of it. And I'll let you know what it is when I think of it. Mike Lee continued, I find this insulting and demeaning to the office that each of the 100 senators in this building happens to hold. I find it insulting and demeaning to the Constitution of the United States. Go Mike Lee. Lee did not say which briefer made the assertion, but specified that no administration representative contradicted them. He added that he was going to have a conversation with Trump about the remarks. Quote, I find that absolutely insane. I think that's unacceptable, Lee said. Lee added. Rand Paul added that he found the briefing less than satisfying and knocked the administration for using the 2002 war authorization as the basis for last week's airstrike against an Iranian general. Quote, I see no way in the world you could logically argue that an authorization to have war with Saddam Hussein has anything to do with having war with people currently in Iraq, Paul told reporters. He added that using the 2002 authorization to justify the strike that killed General Qassem Soleimani in Baghdad was absurd and an insult. Let's have the debate. And let's have some senators stand up, Paul said. The briefing comes as the House is set to vote on a resolution on Thursday that would force Trump to end hostilities against Iran unless he gets specific authorization from Congress. Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat of Virginia, has introduced a similar resolution that is set for a vote on the Senate floor as soon as next week. Lee said that he had not seen the House resolution, but was open to considering it. After today, every time they pull a stunt like this, I'm willing to consider and introduce any and every War Powers Act resolution, he said. Both he and GOP senators were undecided on Kaine's resolution. I can say after that briefing that that briefing is what changed my mind. I'm now going to support it. I walked into the briefing undecided. I walked out of that briefing decided specifically because of what happened in that briefing, he said. Trump said in a Wednesday morning address to the nation that Iran appears to be standing down following weeks of escalating tensions that included an assault on the U.S. Embassy in Iraq by military forces backed by Tehran. Now, if a constitutional congressional debate on the president's war powers emboldened Iran to strike us, wouldn't Donald Trump's tweets that strike out with offensive statements towards Iran and towards other countries do exactly the same? If we are in a situation where the words from congressional candidates or from congressmen and congresswomen are going to embolden terrorists in some kind of Orwellian usage or in some type of Orwellian manipulation and bullying, quite frankly, if those debates are somehow going to embolden Iran, then I ask, how in the world does Donald Trump's tweets not do the same? We are in a position right now where we have to be strong with the Constitution. We have to stand up for the constitutional rights of the United States of America. Otherwise, where does it stop? Where does it end? Where are we going to see an end to unconstitutional behaviors if we do not stand up now and fight against it? Now, we also saw the other night, and some of the things I had considered over this, Trump making those statements about bombing cultural sites was just, those types of comments do nothing but really piss off Iran. They do nothing but upset Iran and upset the other countries around the world. Now, what will happen now? Now, Donald Trump did say today, and I thought that this was interesting when he came out today. And some people have commented, and I thought the same thing too, that he did look and sound tired. He did look and sound. I think just because, and I honestly, I think it's because, at this point, a lot of presidents have said the same thing, Republican and Democrat alike. Sitting in that chair, making those decisions, you just don't know. And none of us really can grasp until we are put in the situation where we have to make those decisions, what it's like to make those decisions that they have to make on a daily basis. Nobody knows what that's like. And I don't purport to know what that is like either. But regardless, I think that the reason that he sounded and looked tired is because really the weight of that over the past several days has come upon him, because we were at risk of a larger potential war. We were facing a larger and potential attack here that we evaded. And some people, I've seen different reports. Some say that we shot down their missiles and that's why they didn't hit. Other folks say that they didn't hit because they intentionally didn't mean to hit or have any casualties. But Donald Trump did say today, he said, "I'm pleased to inform you the American people should be extremely grateful and happy. No Americans were harmed in last night's attack by the Iranian regime." Trump said in remarks from the grand foyer of the White House, "Our American forces are prepared for anything, and Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world." But he did threaten to hit them with sanctions if they didn't. Sanctions like they had never seen. Sanctions like they had never seen. Sanctions are a type of, or an act of war against a nation because they can cripple a nation. I hope that Iran is finished. And I hope, after Donald Trump's statements today, that he is also finished. Although what has been said by leaders in Iran is that what they want is American troops gone from the world or from their region. Well, there's finally something we can agree on when it comes to politics. Iran's supreme leader calls missile strike at bases a slap in the face, warns it's not enough. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said Wednesday that ballistic missile attacks targeting U.S. military and coalition forces in Iraq on Wednesday morning were a slap in the face to the United States. Khamenei said the U.S. should leave the region, adding military action like this is not sufficient. What is important is ending the corrupting presence of America in the region. Now, we can agree that the best way to protect American lives is to get them out of there. If Iraq votes for a resolution to get us out of there, let's get out of there. Let's not slap sanctions on Iran. Let's get the crap out of there. Just like Donald Trump said he would be doing when he ran. Let's get our troops out of there. We don't have to worry about any fears of them being attacked. We don't have to worry about any danger to them. Out. Gone. Pack it up and leave, boys. So we agree on that. Corrupting, I'm not sure about that part. But we can definitely agree that we can get our troops out of there. That way they won't be under any further attack and won't be under in danger. But the biggest problem that we have right now, the biggest problem that I'm concerned with, is not what happens over there. My concern is what could potentially happen here. The first concern that I had when this whole thing happened was not so much the attacks that they could do to us over there, not so much foreign or U.S. travelers over there in Iran. My fear was the sleeper cells here in the United States of America. What could happen to those sleeper cells here? What was going to happen to those folks if they made one phone call, sent out one text message, and then all of a sudden there's attacks all over the nation? Because they are here. As a matter of fact, a former CIA officer, Iranian sleeper cells in the U.S., a real threat, but attack on our soil would be a new 9/11. Potential terrorist sleeper cell operations in the United States are a credible threat in the wake of Tuesday's Iranian missile strikes. And it's not just the CIA saying this. Hezbollah has been over here in the United States for years. They are the largest funded and the most well-funded terrorist organization in the world. They have made billions selling drugs here in the United States of America. They have owned over 70 car dealerships through which they've laundered the billions they've made in drug sales. And just real quick, do you know who their state sponsor is? Could it be Iran? They are sponsored by Iran. So the fear that we have, that we should have, is the attack that could potentially happen here in the United States of America. They're all over the place, these sleeper cells, and they're ready they're ready at any moment. They've come over here to the United States of America. They've integrated into our society. More than likely, they've come over through illegal means through the border. They have come into the United States. They've become part of us. They've had boatloads of children. They've sold billions of dollars worth of drugs and cars, probably crappy foreign cars, and they have laundered all of that money through trying to legitimize their criminal racket. That's the fear that we should have. If we pull our troops home, shore up our defenses here in the United States of America, protect our own borders, and keep our citizens safe here, we can save more American lives. So we can stop sending airplanes from overseas, these C-130s full of caskets that have our young men and women inside them. Bring the troops home, protect our nation, and let's prevent any kind of further attacks over here. 859-429-2764. Now, I'm winding down here on the show in the next few moments here. It is rather difficult for us to allow unconstitutional actions to consistently happen. We have got to stop ourselves from buying into the Trump cult and saying that no matter what he does is great. Donald Trump is a fantastic president. He's done amazing things since he's been in office, and we appreciate everything he's done. But we want him to operate within the confines of the Constitution. Otherwise, all the great things that are done are completely nil. They're void. We have to make sure that Donald Trump acts within the confines of the Constitution of the United States of America. Because the next president who comes, the next president who sits in that chair, we have to ensure that he is held to the same exact standard as every other president before him. And we lose our ability to fight for the Constitution when we don't fight for the Constitution. We lose all ability to stand up for righteousness and to stand up for the Constitution when we ourselves will not make those stands when necessary. We hold our political leaders accountable. We don't excuse them. We don't explain them away. We don't try to make them look better than what they are. We hold their feet to the fire. 859-429-2764 is the number you can call to be a part of the show. Now, I've talked a lot about this tonight because it's been really heavy on me. This has probably been one of the more difficult situations that I've had to work through in the past little bit, and I think that it's necessary for us to think about these things as men and women who love the United States of America and men and women who think that it's necessary for our leaders to be accountable. We have to hold them to a higher standard. Actually, no, not a higher standard. We have to hold them to one standard, and that standard is the Constitution of the United States of America. Therefore, I believe that Donald Trump acted unconstitutionally by killing Soleimani. And I'm not going to argue that the guy was a piece of crap. I'm not going to say he deserved to die. I'm not going to say any of that stuff. I'm just going to let that sit out there. Good, bad, or otherwise, the actions that led to this were unconstitutional. 859-429-2764 if you would like to sound off on that. If not, you can send messages through Facebook, also Twitter. Give me contacts on that and let me know what you think about those. And another thing that I think that is necessary for us to consider right now, not just the fact that Donald Trump did this. We have to consider the fact that if we demand that Donald Trump drain the swamp, we need to hold him accountable for doing that as well. There was a National File news story right here that was written. The title simply says, Pompeo's State Department uses taxpayer dollars Facebook fact checkers to fight misinformation and propaganda. Facebook's top fact checker spoke at one of the group's events. So the Donald Trump State Department is using the exact same attacks and the exact same strategies that the Obama administration was using as well. Tech Camp seemed to increase its activity after President Obama infamously signed the National Defense Authorization Act on December 24, 2016, which included the Countering Disinformation and Propaganda Act of 2016. According to Zero Hedge, this allowed President Obama's federal government to potentially form its own Ministry of Truth. The CDPA offered a massive $160 million for the purpose of fighting what would later become known as fake news in the United States and globally. While it is unclear where this funding was dispersed, the timeline appears to coincide with Tech Camp beginning its fight against fake news globally. In short, as former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson took the reins of the State Department, the group was allowed to flourish. During February of 2017, only a month after President Trump's inauguration and after the media had already blamed fake news in Russia for the 2016 election results, the group began holding events in Europe with fake news as a major focus. In its February 2017 event in Warsaw, Poland, Tech Camp featured a representative from Stop Fake, an organization that claims to struggle against fake information about new events in Ukraine. At this event, the Obama-appointed ambassador Bruce Wharton acting Undersecretary for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs delivered remarks. So what we have here now is this Tech Camp, which is flourishing with this potential Ministry of Truth that occurred within the Trump or the Obama administration, is continuing to flourish with underneath the Trump administration right now. So the very same people that are fact-checking and trying to shut down conservatives, who are trying to shut down alternative sources of media like Alex Jones, and have gone after Milo Yiannopoulos and these other alternative media sites have and personalities and who have deplatformed them and taken away their voice in the public square, is operating under President Trump right now. His State Department is still taking taxpayer dollars and funneling it to this so that we can label our conservative counterparts and alternative media brothers and sisters as fake news. While it cannot be ascertained without a Freedom of Information Act request whether Tech Camp received money from the CDPA, the Act's $160 million was set to expire at the end of 2018. Before this could happen, Marie Royce, the wife of former Republican Representative Ed Royce, was appointed to the position of Assistant Secretary of the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs at State Department, effectively becoming the executive director of ECA. It should be noted that Newsweek reported that Royce gained her role with the help of Republican fundraiser and former Republican National Committee head Elliot Broidy, who allegedly profited off the destabilization of Ukraine and allegedly sold influence over and access to President Trump following his election. Now, this is why we need to hold our leaders accountable for what they say they're going to do. 319 things that Donald Trump has done in the past 3 years. Phenomenal. But if we want to continue to see our republic flourish, there are bigger things that have to be done. The smaller stepping stones, the smaller blocks, yes, those are necessary. They have to be done, and we're grateful for them. However, we also have to make sure that the major things are taken care of. We have to make sure that going forward, presidents cannot act outside of the Constitution. We have to be vigilant for that. We have to make sure that the swamp is drained so that people like Mike Pompeo don't continue to move within there, within the structures of the government and control the argument and control the information that's given to the president. We have to make sure that Gina Haspel and Mark Esper, these folks that are firmly ensconced in the swamp, these swamp rats and swamp things, are not allowed to continue in their positions. We have to stand up for that. Now, folks will say, well, what is the big idea with that? Folks will say, he's doing so many things, and the swamp is so vast, it's so big, it's so wide. There's so many things right now. We can't expect it to be done in 3 years. Wait. The whole reason he ran, you throw up, well, look what he's able to accomplish. Look what he's done. But these major things have to be done. These major things have to be completed now. These major things have to be advanced. If we don't advance them, our cause of liberty is going to fall. It's going to falter. We're going to fail. We'll flop. And all kinds of other words that begin with F. We cannot continue with a government that allows the same people cycling through different positions in the government. That's the shadow government. That's the deep state. When you have Council on Foreign Relations people that are consistently run through the ringer and put into administration, in and out of administrations, in and out of cabinet positions, in and out of jobs within the federal government, when you see that constantly being woven through and constantly being done, that is what the deep state is. The deep state doesn't get voted out every 4 years. The deep state are those people who stay in power and who are not checked. They're the Mike Pompeos who are the CIA directors. And then they move over and become closer to the president of the United States of America. People that admit to lying and stealing. People that admit to cheating. And then people who admit to saying, yeah, not only do we lie, steal, cheat, but we show other people how to lie, steal, and cheat. Those are the people. That shadow government that exists, the deep state that exists, those are the people that have to be rooted out. Those are the folks who have to be removed from power. If we don't do that, all the other things we've done are just going to be completely reversed. If we don't get the strength now, if we don't have the gumption and the intestinal fortitude now to say, get those rats out of there, get those swamp rats out of the way, let's get some new blood. Let's get some new folks in there. If we don't do that now, our liberty is going to fall and falter. Our nation will not be able to come back from folks that are consistently working against the Constitution and the American people. There is a fight going on within right now. There is a fight going on within the government on a level that we see the tip of the iceberg of. That is where we have to be. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for the show tonight. And just for tonight, though, because there's plenty of other information. Daily, we're getting additional information popping out, and continually we're seeing different things happen. And I would like to continue to update you with the breakdowns take on this, breaking down the events of the day and working through that. But one thing I would like to leave you with, we have hope, okay? We have hope. It isn't just... it isn't just hopeless. Right now, we see bad things happening within the government. We see bad things happening within the Constitution, or to the Constitution. We see horrible things happening right now all over the place. We see bombings, wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, destruction, all of those things. And we see the swamp continuing to run the nation, even though we have Donald Trump fighting with every ounce of his strength against it. But there is hope. But that hope comes only through Jesus Christ. And you're like, oh, okay, that's it. Turning it off now. You're going all crazy on me. No, don't get like that. Jesus Christ is the hope of the world for our futures, for our presents. If we want true peace, to be able to weather the storm that comes against us with any political nefarious attack, the only way for us to consistently do that, the only way for us to consistently have peace is to get peace from the King of Peace. And that peace comes only through knowing that our sins have been forgiven and that we've been cleansed of our sins that we've committed against Jesus Christ. So I'm going to ask you right now, how those who are under the sound of my voice, reach out and touch the screen. No, in all seriousness, People talk about the Bible all the time. They talk about Jesus all the time. They say he's going to make you happy. He's going to bring you joy. But here's what I'm going to tell you that Jesus Christ does for you. Your hope isn't just going to be, hey, I've got Jesus, so things are better. Right now, we have all broken God's holy law. We could go through the 10 Commandments. Have you honored God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength, every moment of every day of your entire life? With every fiber of your being, have you done that? Have you always glorified him and honored him by treating his name with respect and the reverence it deserves? Have you ever looked at a woman or a man, if you're regardless of if you're cis, Jim, Zizai, Zimzer, If you look at the opposite sex, or if you look at the same sex with lust in your heart, you've committed adultery with that person in your heart. Jesus says that's the same as committing physical adultery because it's in your heart. Have you ever hated someone without cause? The Bible says that's the same thing as murder. If you take God's name in vain and you use it as a curse word, that's blasphemy. That's what, 4 of the commandments we've covered? If we were to go through all 10, I know that you'll be guilty of them because I was guilty of them as well. We've broken God's holy law. And there is only one way for us to justly fix the sin that we have committed. There's no way you can pay it back. You deserve, and I deserve, we all deserve hell. We deserve to go to hell for eternity because our sins have been committed against an eternal being. And you know that there's a right and the wrong. You know that you deserve that. You know that you deserve judgment. You know that there is judgment coming. We've shown that with the Soleimani situation. We've said, people have said he's a horrible person and he got his comeuppance. You're going to get your comeuppance one day. We're all going to get our comeuppance one day. But we can't pay. We can't redeem ourselves from those comeuppance. It isn't just going to be a blast and then it's all done and we're all happy-go-lucky in heaven forever. Because we have a right and wrong, because we have a judgment where we can say a guy like Soleimani is bad, we know that there is a standard bearer. We know that there is a person that has given a law that has to be abided by because we know right and wrong based on that. So you know that you've broken God's holy law and you know that you deserve punishment for that. And when you stand before God on Judgment Day, it doesn't matter how many old ladies you helped across the street. It doesn't matter how much money you've given to charity, how much time you've given to good organizations or situations. What matters is what you did with Jesus Christ. Because only Jesus can take your penalty. And he did that by coming into flesh, by shoving himself in human flesh and living a perfectly sinless life and then dying for you on the cross so that you would not have to pay the penalty that you could not pay. And he did it all for you because he loved you. We just celebrated Advent. We celebrated Jesus Christ coming into this world and living and being perfect for our sins, or for the express purpose of dying on the cross for your sins. So right now, if you're listening to this and you're hearing this and you're like, you know what, that makes sense. God calls you in repentance and faith, repentance unto God and faith towards Jesus Christ. Right now, repent of your sins. Tell God you're sorry for your sins. Put your faith, hope, and trust in Jesus Christ, and then you'll be saved. Find yourself a good Bible-believing church. If you need help or you have questions or concerns, put your information in the comments, and I'll reach out to you. Message me privately on Facebook or Twitter. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. But right now, it's a very simple thing that you have to do. You just simply put your faith, hope, and trust in Jesus Christ, and then your sins will be forgiven for eternity. And then you will have hope. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up for us tonight. Thank you all so much for staying with me. Thank you all for your support. Check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/BreakDRadio. Go to the Twitter page as well, @BreakDRadio is the Twitter handle. Check me out on YouTube. I don't have a name for that one yet. You just simply got to go to the YouTube machine there and type in The Breakdown with Aaron Barker. I would love to hear from you. Questions, comments, conundrums, anything you have, feel free to reach out. And until next time, make Christ supremely valuable.